Rapid pace out here early in the second. LeVert, hey, knocks it down. Rondo's on the run. Stops. Hits Love. Love fires. Cavs reset with a fresh 14. Under 3 to go in the half. Garland works on Holiday. Pause it for a moment. Shovels to Mobley. Garland, step back three, drew a foul, knocks it down.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, boys, you are listening live here to episode number 37 of the All Things Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, covering it on Brandon Lewis and literally Joey Schneider just entering our screen.
Just entering the building. Brandon, what is going on? Episode number 37. You know, got some exciting things to talk about. Not a whole lot, but I think that we should get into it. Topic number one, Brandon. We got our boy, your pick from the for the NBA draft special. If you guys hadn't checked it out, go back and check out last week's episode. We had a draft special. We all kind of picked the player that we were hoping would be there. I picked Johnny Davis as well as Joel Ewell. He picked the same, but I think we both knew Johnny Davis was not going to be there. But my backup guy, the guy who I've been talking to you about forever, you did your own research, you fell in love. The Cleveland Cavaliers at number 14 got Ochai Agbaji from Kansas. And man, I couldn't be happier. I think he's going to fit perfectly in with the Cavaliers. They could have gone in so many different directions. AJ Griffin fell, and that was, we actually predicted that, me and Joe, in our first, in our very first mock draft. We actually had him fall into the Cavs, but Agbaji, 6'5", big wingspan, can guard 40% from three, averaged 18 points last year on the national championship Kansas Jayhawks. Perfect fit for the Cavaliers. What do you think?
Yeah, again, as I said last week, the guy is an excellent three-point shooter. I believe he shot over 40% from three this past season. He obviously is a 4-year starter at Kansas, and as we talked about a little bit on the draft show, there was some concern about that. It's not a concern of mine. I actually like the fact that he played all 4 years. I think it's a little bit overrated myself. I mean, as you know, back in the day, guys, you spent 4 years in school, no matter how good they were at the college level. Just we're in such a one and done kind of era now in college basketball. It's seen as a negative, though sometimes in my opinion it can be a positive because they get more mature growing. But yeah, I mean, I think that this guy can come in, he is going to play right away, in my opinion, which I think is important. I don't think he's going to start right away, but I think he's certainly going to come off the bench, will give you 15 to 20 minutes, and will certainly be another option to score the basketball when Darius Garland is not in the game, which is what the Cavs desperately needed to improve on this past offseason.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The one thing that, we have talked about, and a lot of us here at Believe in Media have talked about, we have a lot of very similar players. Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro, now Agbaji. Do you think that Isaac Okoro is a little bit more expendable now than he was before the draft? Because we have had these conversations about Isaac Okoro. He's young. He's only 21 years old. I think this will be his third year in the league. His defense is absolutely out of this world. His offense leaves a lot to be desired. He needs to work on it. And we keep saying that, but there's still a lot of potential there. Is he maybe an asset for Cleveland to trade either before the season or maybe down the road near the trade deadline? Or do you think the Cavs, we know that the Cavs love him. The Cavs have made it clear that they don't want to trade him right now. At least that's what they're saying. But if there's a deal that comes around, do you think that he's a lot more expendable now than he was before the draft?
So I have banged on the virtual table now for the last couple of weeks that I think the Cavs need to make a move. I thought that there were, too many cooks in the kitchen per se. I think if there is a player expendable, I think it will be Okoro, though, as you mentioned, the Cavs obviously love him. I honestly think it depends on how the season kind of progresses. I don't think he's really available right now. I think if there's a situation where maybe he's struggling, whether it be scoring the ball or he's just not contributing, on the team, he's not getting as many minutes towards the trade deadline, or maybe the Cavs are in a position where they can get an all-star type player that could vault them for maybe a middle of the pack to maybe top of the Eastern Conference potentially. I think that's where you would kind of see Okoro be on the move. But as of right now, I think Okoro is going to play. I don't necessarily think he starts. I think that's a little bit of debate. He could start. I don't think he's going to, though. But I do think off the bench, he's going to get heavy minutes, at least early in the season, while they kind of bring Agbaji along.
Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of trade rumors going around the NBA right now. You have DeJounte Murray. That's the big one. He's been linked to the Knicks, the Hawks, the Timberwolves, even to the Cavs at one point. I don't think that the Cavs are going to make a move for him, even though I really wanted them to. I really, really wanted them to. I just think a backcourt of Garland and Murray would be absolutely ridiculous. Who do you guard? I know Murray's not a knockdown 3-point shooter, but I mean the guy averaged almost a triple-double last year, which is ridiculous. But I think the Cavs are really going to do their best to bring back Collin Sexton. I really do. And I think, a lot of people can, this is really a hot topic here. And it's a very, very split debate, with people thinking that Sexton can't play with Garland. Garland has made it known. He has made it very clear. He likes playing with Sexton. So you want to keep your superstar point guard happy by bringing back a very good, maybe fringe all-star shooting guard. So, and we've talked about this, but it's got to be at the right number.
So I believe in a way the Collin Sexton situation is out of the Cavs' hands because they can't do nothing about it until somebody else offers Sexton, I believe. And so if a team like a potential Indiana, I think Detroit was certainly in the running, but now because of the drafting of Jaden Ivey, I don't think that they're going to be in the running anymore. Indiana has certainly been linked to them. There's been a couple other teams, but I think Indiana's kind of the main one because they need someone to play. They're kind of in a rebuild. They have money to spend if they wanted to throw 20+ million at Sexton. In that case, again, I don't think the Cavs are going to match, but if it's an offer the Cavs like, I think that they are going to match it. I really think it comes down to money, and I think it's that simple at this point. If they want Sexton to be back, I think Sexton wants to be back, but if somebody, hey, listen, the old phrase, money talks. I don't care how much you want to be somewhere. If it's a difference between 15 and 18 million or something like that, maybe you say, hey, I'll go back to Clay when I'm more comfortable. But if it's say 14 versus 20 or something like that, it's going to be a tough decision to make. And I think at this point, ultimately, Kobe Altman and crew are hoping Sexton doesn't get a $20+ million offer. He certainly could, but it really comes down to who offers him and at what price it is.
If Jalen Brunson's getting a $110 million offer from the Knicks, Collin Sexton's probably getting at least a $90 to $100 million offer from someone.
Yeah, and that though really justifies okay, maybe the Cavs can pay a $21 million price tag because the salary cap's gonna go up, and guys are making money that let's just be honest here. There's a lot of guys making money, a lot of money that are not near the max, but they're pretty close, and they really should not be making, 18, 19, $20 million. As really for some of these guys, they're either fringe starters or rotational bench pieces. And you can make an argument, out of all of these free agents, after kind of the first wave, which, as we talked about a little bit, there's not a ton in that first wave this year. Collin Sexton's right up there as one of the top restricted/unrestricted free agents in the whole league.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And, it just depends on, a lot of these teams, how much money do they have? Are they going to be aggressive in going after them? And if they are, or maybe a team doesn't, but they need to clear cap space, is there going to be maybe room for the Cavs to improve the roster by doing a sign and trade? So, it's all going to boil down to the next few weeks and seeing what happens with one Mr. Collin Sexton, aka the Young Bull. Personally, I do hope he comes back in a Cavs uniform. Something that we have not talked about that I want to hit on real quick. The Cavs have a lot of assets this year. If you really think about it, they got LeVert. If LeVert's not, maybe LeVert's not playing up to what we were hoping. He's got a 1-year, $17 million contract. That'll come off the books. Teams like expiring contracts. Kevin Love. I kind of want them to re-sign Kevin Love, but definitely not at the $30+ million he's making. And if they don't re-sign him at the end of the season, that's another $30 million off the Cavs books. They have money, and at some point, if the I'm not gonna say if, when the Cavs become championship contenders again, they're going to have to make that decision if they're going to go into the luxury tax again.
I'm wondering if the Cavs kind of take, I don't want to say a Celtics approach to it, but Boston, they accumulated all of those picks from the Brooklyn Nets years ago when they traded Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, and I believe somebody else was involved in that deal as well, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But they got all those assets from Brooklyn, and they turned into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Mm-hmm. Well, for the last few years, people were saying Boston's got to give one up. It just doesn't work. They got to make a move. They're not great championship contenders. And we saw this year, they ended up making it to game 6 of the NBA Finals. Cavs in a year or two, you could make an argument they're almost Boston-esque. They're going to have a lot of assets, right? I mean, you talk about Darius Garland, potentially Collin Sexton, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. These guys, most of them now for the Cavs, the difference is that they're going to be under contract, obviously, outside of Garland, who's going to get a payday. But they're going to have to, I believe, make some sort of trade at some point. Could be a small trade. It could be a big trade to go get some sort of star on a struggling team who, is your one last piece to potentially go win the Eastern Conference or the NBA championship. But I think here in the next year or two, they're going to have to make a decision on some of these young kids and some of these guys they have on the 1-year deal, like a LeVert, like a Love. Either they bring them back and they just kind of keep the core and let them all grow together for 3 or 4 years, or you will package 1 or 2 of them up with a pick and go get somebody. But I think they kind of want to let this ride out for a little bit and see, because last year was only the start of the up-and-coming team. And so this year's Darius Garland's talked about a lot. The next step is postseason. And so then after that, you can see, I think, okay, this is what we're really missing to get to that next level. And how do we get there?
Yeah, and another piece that, and like you said, you don't really want to mess with things, because we really were a playoff team last year who just really got hit with injury bugs at the end of the season, and it derailed us. Me and you were making jokes about we didn't know who was starting that night. So, you don't really want to mess with a team that was a playoff contender last year up until the injury bug. But, if you even need another trade piece, I hate to say it, Lauri Markkanen, trade piece as well. I mean, he is, but fair contract, a team that, might be in need of a stretch 4, might be willing to give something decent up for him, and this is purely speculation. I think that as is, the Cavs are a playoff team. If they bring Collin Sexton back, I think the Cavs are definitely a playoff team. I mean, at that point, you got to think you got Garland you got Garland. I would have to assume Sexton starting at the 2.
I would agree.
I have no idea who's starting at 3.
See, and that is the debate of like, that's the 3 is the debate of like, who plays more, right? Is it LeVert? Is it I know we have talked about this. I would still love to see Markkanen to just start the year at the 3 and see how it goes. with him, Mobley, Allen, Sexton at the 2 with Garland. Like, I think that's your ideal starting 5.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of maybe the point is depending on who you're playing, you can start Marketing, you can start Okoro, you can start LeVert. You would have Mobley at the 4, Allen at the 5, and then you got Love off the bench. Then, let's say you start LeVert, you have Okoro, and you have LeVert coming off the bench. You have Jetty coming off the bench, which I'm not gonna say.
At this point,
anything.
I don't know with Agbaji if Jetty's even in the rotation anymore. Because I think you would have Agbaji, probably Okoro, Love. I think for certain they're going to have a backup point guard somewhere in there, whether it's Rubio or maybe even Sexton, takes over the backup point guard when Garland goes out. They can kind of switcheroo there. But you're going to have that. Probably going to add another big at some point to fill out the 5 position, back up to Jared Allen. So I don't know if there's room for Jetty. I really don't.
The only reason that I think they keep Jetty on the team is he's the only legit wing that is on the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And
every other player that they have that can play the 3 is either a combo 2-3 or a 3-4.
It's crazy. Besides Kevin Love, out of all the guys right now that are under contract for next season, Jetty Osman is the oldest player outside of Love.
How old's Jetty? Like 27?
27, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin Love's the grandpa of the team.
I mean, it's again the youth, which is why I think they're just like, you know what, we're gonna let it run till at least the trade deadline and just see. And the only thing I'm a little nervous about is because they have all these pieces. We talked about this, right? They need a set rotation. Guys need to know their roles. Guys need to know when they're playing. Early in the season, all teams go through it a little bit because you got new guys coming in. You're trying to figure out who plays with who. But by like the middle of December, by Christmas, can we please figure out who's playing on this team, who's not? Injuries are going to happen, obviously. But I'm a little nervous about, like you said, some nights, depending on who we're playing, we can start Marketing, or we can start LeVert, or maybe a Okoro starts. Like, no, don't do that. Figure out who plays the best and just go play.
But see, I'm okay with having like one position where maybe you're rotating based on who you're playing, as long as they know what their role in that, like if they're in that role in that game, they're there for a reason. As long as they know what they're supposed to be doing, then that's fine, because the game plan doesn't really change. It's just the team you're playing does, and you're doing the exact same thing. So maybe there's a team that's either a little bit bigger, or whatever the reason, and you got Marketing in it, or maybe you need you're gonna need a little extra firepower, so you have LeVert starting, or they have the team you're playing has a terrific wing, and you need more defense. So as long as like they have a role within that starting unit and they execute it to a T, I'm okay with like one position, having maybe 2 or 3 people who start different games based on who they're playing, but not the entire rotation. I don't want to see, Garland at 1 and LeVert at 2, Sexton coming off the bench, Dean Wade starting at 4 or 3 or 4, then Mobley's, playing center.
That's another guy I forgot about, Dean Wade. And I mean, they just drafted Evan Mobley's brother as well. We didn't mention that, but Isaiah Mobley is now a new Cleveland Cavalier.
I will not talk about any second round picks, as they are non-guaranteed contracts. I don't want to. We're not even getting. The fact that we drafted Evan Mobley's brother makes me angry. Not, congratulations to Isaiah Mobley for getting drafted, and the Mobley brothers on the same team. But I was angry when Kendall Brown got taken, the pick before us in the second round. Kendall Brown is a project player, but Kendall Brown could be a very good project player. And I was a little upset that he got taken. I thought they maybe could have moved up and grabbed him, but It is what it
Honestly,
is.
at this point, I feel like the Cavs, we have enough, kind of guards and wings. I think our biggest, besides backup point guard, I think our biggest need is probably, we just, right before we started recording, we saw they did not tender Moses Brown. He's now an unrestricted free agent. So I think their biggest need, I know that they drafted Diop, but who knows if he's going to stay, who knows how much he's going to play. They probably at best need a backup center. And then I think for the most part, like, this roster is set. Like, it's June 29th today. It's about 3.5 months till the season starts. Like, get in the workroom and let's go. Like, I think this team is pretty set. I don't know if we're going to see any, sorry to disappoint you ATC fans, but I don't know if we're going to see any crazy stories here over the next. I think we're really all set to go. We just want to see these kids play.
I think the craziest story would just be, Sexton resigning, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, that would.
Here's the question. Not to say lose sleep. It's going to be a loss if you do lose Sexton. I think locker room wise, but is it going to be like a major deal if they lose Sexton? I don't know. I've been going back and forth on that. Like, is he the vital piece?
I don't know if he's the vital piece, but here's kind of where I'm at with Sexton. We have seen Sexton score 25 points per game when he needed to, when the Cavs were still terrible, and he was like in his second year in the league, and someone had to score those points, and Sexton did. But as we got better players, Sexton didn't get worse. He got better. His game evolved. And I've said it a million times. Last year, we had a small sample size. We only had 11 games, but he was averaging almost 18 points per game. He was averaging more assists than he had in his career, more steals than he had in his career. He was being lauded as a locker room leader, and especially when it's coming from a guy like Ricky Rubio, then it's 100% true. He was being a team player. He was the most athletic I've ever seen him last year. Hopping out of the building. So if he continues on that path, yeah, I think the Cavs could have a ridiculously special 1-2 punch in the front court. In the backcourt with Garland and Sexton. However, if he moves on, it's going to free up a lot of cap space for the Cavs, because you got LeVert on the final year. You got Love on the final year. What happens when if a big free agent comes up? We got cap space.
I believe next year's free agency class is supposed to be really good. I'm not sure on that. I haven't done any research. I just heard next year's free agency class is supposed to be better, at least, than this one. So,
well, maybe we can get a wing. But speaking of current free agents, if you guys have not, go and check out BelieveInMediaLLC.com to check out Brandon's latest article on some free agents that the Cavs should take a look at that will help them this season and maybe beyond. Give me your top, Brandon. Give me your top one free agent. Maybe not a big splashy name, someone who you think could come in right now and help the Cavaliers.
I was thinking about this a lot, and I'm not going to say Rubio because he was on the team last year. So I'm going to give you somebody who was not on the team, and I don't even know if his fit would work there, but I just really like the way this guy plays. Montrezl Harrell.
I really, really like that. My question becomes, how expensive is he as a backup?
Yeah, and that's the question. Is again, how expensive is he going to be? And guys, a lot of these free agents that I kind of wrote down, there's certainly a lot more. Obviously, I got to pick some more well-known names that could come in, maybe a little more splashy names, if you will. But I don't know. I think if you're going to pay him, what's probably the going rate? 12, 13, 14, 15, maybe somewhere in there.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the issue. You're willing to pay Montrezl Harrell maybe 13, 14 million, but you're not going to give Collin Sexton 20? That's kind of.
I mean, it's a $5-6 million difference, though. I mean that
I mean,
money,
it is, but it's still money committed for it. Depends on how many years.
Yeah, I know.
I think there's teams who could probably, but on the opposite end of that spectrum, when Jared Allen was out, when Evan Mobley was out, the Cleveland Cavaliers needed a big man. We did not have it, and we lost those games.
And here's the thing: even though Harold is only 6'7", he has played some center. His more natural position is power forward. But the one thing I like about him a lot, he can start occasionally if need be, but he's a great six man. He won Sixth Man of the Year award, and he scores coming off the bench. And he's a good shooter. He's not a great shooter. He's a natural forward basketball player. Yeah. I think what I really like about him, he can defend, he can score,
he can rebound.
He can bother people. Like I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase Greg Popovich coined it. It's called the one knucklehead theory. Basically, it means you need one Draymond Green, you need one J.R. Smith, you need one of those guys on your team to win a championship. You need that X factor guy. Who just maybe he doesn't do great on the stat sheet, but just disrupts, a Kendrick Perkins like player.
Like I wouldn't put Kendrick Perkins in that category. You'd be like a Jay Crowder.
Yeah, like that. I mean, Perkins at the end of his career, when he was on the bench with us, I believe that was last year.
I think his last 2 years he got paid to sit on the bench.
Yeah, kind of the enforcer of the team. The Cavs don't really have that. Like that's the one thing that we need somebody with an edge. I love Jared Allen. I love Evan Mobley. I love these guys. Boys, toughen up. Or we're gonna go find someone that just brings. These guys are so nice. Like I get it. You guys are awesome. You're great best. We need someone with an edge. That is the one thing we don't have.
So I'm gonna say I love that pick, and I will say that is my number one as well. But I will give you another, just because I feel like we need to. As much as we also need a backup big man, we need a backup point guard.
Yep.
A guy who I like, and for some reason, a lot of people just don't like when I say his name. I like DeLon Wright. I thought he did a really good job backing up Trae Young last year in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think that, I think there was an extended period where Trae Young was out and DeLon Wright was putting up big numbers. I think that he would be, I don't think he would be that expensive. I think that he'd be a good fit behind Garland. And I think that he would actually be a good fit behind Garland and Sexton if Sexton decided to come back. So I like DeLon Wright. Other names we've heard, Trey Jones and Dennis Schroeder.
Potentially, which I wrote, and even when I was writing it, I was like, to be honest with you guys, I'm like, the Cavs were interested with him. I don't know. I think if Sexton comes back, they weren't going to go over Schroeder. I think, kind of the fit there would be interesting. I think he's kind of to play without Garland, to be honest with you, because he can pass the ball, but to me, he's more of a scoring guard coming off the bench. So, yeah, very interesting. Lou Williams, certainly another name out there. He struggled last year in Atlanta, but he's a veteran point guard that can come off the bench. He's won Sixth Man of the Year 3 times. There's a bunch of names. I do like DeLon Wright as well. I think, again, he wouldn't cost as much, which would be, to be honest with you, I think a little more favorable to me. I think the Cavs should look for somebody in his range a little more, because I don't think they need to go make somebody splashy. They need somebody that when Darius Garland is out, because Garland has been a little hurt throughout his career. He has missed games, probably not going to play all 82 games. If Ricky Rubio is still injured, even if he does come back, you need someone to right the ship at the point guard position.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, that's just, that's the nature right now. And this is a weird position for us to be in as Cavs fans, because the team missed the playoffs last year by 1 game. We were hurt at the end of the season. You don't need to make these big, huge changes. You're not looking for, you don't need to look for that massive trade, myself and, Melanie Kirby, who's, works for Believe in Media, is the co-host of the Guardians of the CLE podcast. She loves DeJounte Murray. I love DeJounte Murray. There'd be a huge splash. Him and Garland in the backcourt. Man, would that be fun to watch. But you don't need to go and do that. Collin Sexton brings a completely different game that's just as exciting, if not even more so, because he's, Collin Sexton can really be an electric player. But you don't need to go and make these moves. Fill in the gaps. Where did we fall apart last year? When Rubio got hurt, we didn't have that backup point guard. At the end of the season, when Mobley got hurt, when Allen got hurt, we didn't have a solid backup center or backup power forward. Montrezl Harrell fits that perfectly. I love that, Brandon. That's like I think might be the perfect person. So I think that you're maybe one or two decent, free agent signings away from being able to fill those voids, and us just not going for the play-in, but top 5 seed and making a splash in the playoffs, which is just, like I said, it's a weird situation to be in, because everyone's looking for that big move, and the Cavs don't need to make it.
I completely agree. And I think that that's where we will kind of wrap things up for today. We appreciate you guys every week for tuning into All Things Cavs Podcast, 37 episodes now. We obviously hope you guys check out all of the other podcasts and run content on BelieveWinMediaLLC.com. Enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Hopefully the weather cooperates. Hopefully we get out and enjoy some time with our families. And Joey, any last words today, my man?
The only thing I want to say to you, Brandon, and I want to be as gentle with this as I can. Okay. Let them know.